Okay, welcome to How to Build Your Own Home. We are at the Pine Valley North job, and I'm going to give you a walkthrough. I've had a lot of comments as students say, hey, can you just give me a good walkthrough of a complete job? Or during a framing stage or a foundation or something like that. So we're going to do a complete walkthrough, where we are, why I'm doing things the way I'm doing them, and some things we're actually solving for in the future. There's a lot of stuff. So follow me. We're going to do the walkthrough. We're going to start with the deck here, work our way around the house, and go inside. Okay, here first spot is here is the deck. It's a really, you can't build a mountain home without a deck. Yeah, it just goes with the territory. So we got a really beautiful deck here, but we had to accommodate for a lot of things. We can get up to 4 or 5 feet of snow up here very, very easily. So you can see the snow can get up to this high. Well, I pulled my columns up out of the ground so that if snow did come back, it's not going to fall against the timber work. I just don't want that buried in the snow. That's just a rule of thumb. Keeping this stuff off the ground is really key for lasting quality. And plus we did it, this here goes down, maybe 7 feet from here, from top to bottom. So we've got a lot of stability. You got also our footings, which are at 12 inches thick, 24 by 24, so a lot of stability, a lot of rebar. I went with some saddles here. There's a lot of different systems you can have, and you've seen me do these before on some other posts, but I wanted, these were wet set, so when the concrete was poured, they were set perfectly. Now I got my framer here, and my concrete got here at the same time, and we lined these up just perfectly. We pulled string, pulled our square, made sure that we were plumb with the home. These here were just perfect. Now I went with round circular columns because they're more forgiving, meaning that you really can't tell if one's out a ½ inch or what, or even 1.5 inches, but these are dead center. So you can tell it gives you some play when you put them in there. Now there's other systems where you can do drill holes, epoxy and bolts and stuff like that. But I wanted them wet set, and it was part of the engineering of the home. So the bottoms are all set, and posts are almost all set on this deck. And you notice up here, we've got a notch here. This is something to save some money on some of the hardware that would have typically been required. I wanted these posts to go all the way up and be part of the rail system without having to cut them and put caps and saddles and stuff like that on there. So my framer, we're actually, and this is part of the design of the home, we're notching them in, and we're actually going to slide our beamwork right through the middle of that, and that will be the ledger board for the actual deck on the inside. It's going to be very beautiful, and it's going to actually have a very clean look to it. Let's walk down this way and check out some more areas. Okay, before they actually started to frame here, we hurried and brought the excavator here and kind of backfilled. It's still kind of lumpy, but at least it's not a deep pit. We had deep pits in here where these columns were set in on the footings before the concrete was poured. So we hurried and excavated, because you can't bring a boom excavator in here when all these beams are in the way. So we hurried and got that done while they were waiting on doing some framing up top. But you notice this here beam is a 10 by 10 beam, rough sawn timber, and this one here is going straight up, and it's going to capture the roof all the way up at the top. And so even though this one looks out just a little bit, the others, because they're 8 by 8 beams, but that's all planned. That was all designed for that. These columns here will actually be stuccoed. We could rock them, but we'll do a nice stucco surface on them. When we do a finish on this job, you'll really like that. It'll be beautiful. But again, we're all lined up here. Okay, one of the complicated things with this deck is it's a wraparound deck, and on top of that, we've got beams that are going up 14, 15, some as high as 24 feet. Squaring that up was a real challenge. So again, like I said before, I got subcontractors here at the same time to agree, and we had huge batter boards up here, and we had strings, and we all squared everything up, make sure it was just right before they actually poured the concrete here. Once all that was all squared away, then they can actually set those saddles. When something is complex like that, you get everybody here that is party to the build. So if your framer's here and they're party to this, they're going to have to frame on top of that. My framer was nice enough to come and set those in the concrete. The concrete crew didn't want to set the saddles because they couldn't confirm if they were square. So my framer came up and he set them, and then my other concrete crew, another one came up and set the strings. So when everybody was here working, They got it done, squared it up, everything's plumb and level and flush, and it was great. But again, don't be afraid to get people here that are going to have to utilize either the concrete or going to frame it, get them to work together. If you can, you solve some problems and you get something that's really complex done right. Let's go up here and look at some retaining walls. Okay, we're doing some retainage wall here, which is part of the blank plan on the design. Originally it was just one wall, and doing a step situation actually helped make that a little easier to build. Check with your local building department because they will only give you the ability to do a retainage wall up to a certain height. Sometimes it's 3 feet, sometimes it's 4 feet without an engineer. If you go higher than that, the wall will have to be engineered. There's a lot, every jurisdiction's different, so make sure you check on that. My jurisdiction is 3 feet, okay? But we're actually doing like 2.5. We'll bring in more backfill in here, and that there will be about 2.5 to almost 3 feet and set back there. We're using some felt up there, which actually helps to hold the moisture content, or not moisture, the soil, into the ground. So we'll actually put some mesh here and mesh up at the top. And again, that helps stabilize everything as well. And a lot of times the engineer will tell you how far back that needs to go. So I did a wall a while back, and I had to take that mesh at least 8 feet back before we even did the other wall. So again, check with your local building department and make sure you do it right. Okay, we got a pipe in here, and I made a call real quick because I'm always thinking about drainage. And a lot of times they leave that up to the landscaper. He comes in and makes a mess of everything, and it's not done right. I like to do it during the course of the build. So as they were building this wall, they got to about that far. I says, hey, can you guys stop and hurry and throw in a drainage line right here? Yeah, not a problem. Got the pipe, put it in. This goes underneath this wall quite substantially deep. Pops out up at the corner of the building over there. So now I have a place to capture my rain gutter, and I'm taking it into the gully. As we rebuild this pathway here, we'll actually put a bunch of rocks at the bottom there to capture that. This will actually flow heavily with water. There's a nice downpour like we get them up here in the mountain. This could be filled with water, and it's going to dump out there in the gully. I'm actually going to bring another line in here, and I'm not going to fill this one with it because I don't want that much backflow. We'll have another one in parallel with this one going up the walking path and catching the other end of the house up that way. But again, we were able to capture and solve a problem and not have to deal with the headache later on. So it was a great thing to do. The more you're here on the job site asking and thinking about water flow, you can ask them, hey, can we do this? And if you have that in your contingency, you can get it done. Okay, well, I talk about logistics a lot of the time, and I knew how much space I was going to need for a lot of subcontractors. The framing crew up here is about 7 cars, 7 trucks. And it's a real hassle to haul everything all the way at the bottom of the road there. So what we did is hurry and graded this out, but I wanted to make sure I have positive flow. When we do some other finish video of this job, I'll show you how we actually have a hump right there, and it drains this way to the north, and then it drains that way, which is to the southeast. And as the winter starts to set in, we're actually going to have that positive flow. And you want to have positive drainage away from that home, even during the course of construction. I've seen homes where they start the framing and they got this big, huge pit right next to the foundation of the home, and it fills up with snow and water, and then you start having water leaks inside the foundation. So you want to solve for that while you have the opportunity. Right now we have a good blue sky for the next week, no rain. We're grabbing that opportunity as quick as we possibly can. And so you can see over here, we took out the hillside. We've got a lot of rock from across the valley. We're going to riprap this with granite boulders. It'll be very beautiful. So, but we need a space. We need a space for all this lumber up here. And again, you can see we're still tight as it is. So again, thinking in logistics. And that's just a framing crew taking up all this space. Imagine when you have 3 different mechanical crews, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and all of them at the same time. Again, they need to be as close to the job site as you possibly can, because they are unloading and loading constantly of materials for what they're trying to do. Okay, we're inside. We're going to go through some framing and I'll talk to you about some of the stuff that we're dealing with and some solutions. Yeah, on this main floor, there's not a single step. Got a 3-car garage going into a laundry room, going into the deck. The deck does drop down for 2.5, 3 inches, which is per code, but everything else is very level, meaning no steps. If you know me, I'm a zero threshold guy. I don't like steps. Even in the shower, it's recessed, so that will have no threshold. This will be an ideal home for a couple to age in place if they wanted to, where they can actually not have to go up steps, down steps. There's upstairs, throw the grandkids upstairs. There's a downstairs also for them, but everything on the laundry, master bedroom, everything on the main level has no steps. That takes a lot of planning, and you have to constantly reiterate to your subcontractors, this is what I want. Let's see if we can make it happen. So we made some adjustments during the course of the build. So I'll talk about those when we do a finish, because I can go into a lot of those steps, but a lot of those issues and things we solved along the way. Let's walk inside. Okay, I'm in a stairwell here, and you're probably asking, why are all these holes in the stairwell? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, this stairwell is going to be rocked. All right, that's what's planned for the build, and I just didn't want, I wanted something rigid to put that rock and lath product to, so it can hold it. And rock is what you typically put on the exterior of a home, and you can put it on the inside, but I wanted stability. I wanted to be able to have a lath that can be held to something. So he sheeted it, but that keeps me from insulation. So we'll have all these holes so I can blow in insulation. I can also reach in there and feed electrical to put in some lighting here if we choose to do that. So that's why we did that, and we sheeted it before we actually put in the stairwell. So now I have that option, that strength, and it's actually adding a lot of rigidity as we move up on the entire stairwell. It gives that stability for the lath, for the rock product. Let's walk up here. Okay, when we started to do construction, a lot of times you'll run into things and you didn't even see it until you actually start to build it. But the architect assumed that these were going to be metal stairs, which means I would not have needed this post support here. But we were not going to go with metal stairs, and that wasn't part of it. It was just kind of a trend that particular architect does with a lot of homes, especially with modern contemporary homes. They'll do open-looking stairs that's a metal situation. So we're not doing that with this home. And so we had to throw in a post because there was no support in here. Luckily we had that, it goes all the way up. That's going to add more stability to it, because this here was planned, that post, but this one here was not. So we had the extra posts, and that we solved that problem here. But I want to show you something about stairs over here. When you do stairs, I always like to do stairs where I can put a piece of trim in there. So let's say, for example, I put my drywall, and I've got 1.5 inches right there. So I can do my 1/2 inch of drywall, and then I can put a piece of 1 inch of just about anything after the drywall. So I'll wrap this with drywall, and then I'll put a piece of wood trim in there. And the benefit of that is that, let's say, for example, you want to repaint your home. Well, you've got that wood in there that never gets banged up, never changes, and it stays that stain. So all you have to do is paint from here on. If this wall went all the way up, then I would just put a piece of tape at the top of that piece of oak, trim, white oak, knotty alder, whatever you choose, on that stair tread right through here. Then the wall right through here, if you did do a wall right there, you just have to paint from there up. You don't have to, imagine putting a tape right here and painting all the way down and caulking and painting it. It's a real hassle. So having that piece of wood trim there stops that hassle from having to be a nightmare down the road. Plus it looks good. It's a nice piece. So I actually create more of a gap right in here. So when you talk with your framers, they're going to ask you that. They're going to ask if you want some trim right there, or if you just want it all flush up against the drywall. So ask them that. It's a big question there. Let's go over here and take a look at the concrete here. I wanted to show you. Remember in some other videos, I said that we had to frame first and pour the concrete, and that allowed us to hit the concrete just perfectly. It's harder for the framer to match the concrete. It's easier for the concrete guy to match the framer. We're now perfectly level right there. So we've got a transition between wood and slab, all the way through here on the home. So I was really happy about that. We timed it right. It wasn't necessarily easy, but it was the right way to do that. Framing first, then our concrete. Okay, we're done with this main floor and some excavation decks, things I've shown you. We've got about another 3 to 4 weeks before we finish the framing on this. It's now October 30th. It's October 30th or 31st? 31st. It's Halloween. October 31st. So the goal is to get all this wrapped up and get it dry in before the holidays, Thanksgiving holidays. And I think we can. We've got another week of blue skies. If we do get some rain, we've actually solved a lot of problems before that rain gets here. I've actually covered the deck. We'll actually do another coating on this and protect a lot of the lumber. But again, we're pushing, trying to get that dry in. It may take place probably the first or second week of December. When that dry in takes place, I'll be able to sleep. I'll be able to relax because the weather is not going to get to the inside elements of the home. That's what I'm going for. Again, this is the Pine Valley North job. We'll give you some more posts on this. Again, more walkthroughs to help you see what I'm going through, how I solve problems, and how I run into issues and solve for them in the future that may not even occur, or even if they do occur, I'm solving for those. And the more you hear, talk with guys, subcontractors, the better your process is going to go. Don't come on the job site thinking you know everything. Ask questions and don't say, why are you doing it that way? Just say, I'm curious, that's an interesting way. Can you explain to me how you do that? Be curious and talk with them. Don't be judgmental. I'm telling you that will go a long way because that's how I operate. Again, this is how to build your own home with this Pine Valley North job.